Yo, what's up guys, this is Mike Troid, and today I'm coming at you with a different kind of video. I actually wanted to talk about this card over here, which I'm sure we're all intimately familiar with if we've been playing Pocket, and that is the supporter card Misty. This card has gained a somewhat infamous reputation in the community. Some people love this card, I think most people hate this card, and either way, I just wanted to talk about it today because I've had a number of discussions in real life with friends and coworkers who are playing this game, as well as a number of discussions online with both, people in the community as well as just random people in YouTube comments and on streams. So I kind of just wanted to summarize my thoughts and talk about why I personally think that this card is problematic design for TCG Pocket. Now, I want to say, first and foremost, I'm having a ton of fun with this game. I don't think this game is fundamentally broken or anything like that, and overall it's very well balanced. I just think that this card in particular represents problematic design, and the main reason that I feel that way is because every time this card is played, it is a feels bad for exactly one player. If the player playing it flips tails, they feel awful because they've just used their supporter for turn to do absolutely nothing, and now there's a very strong likelihood that they just lose the game off the back of that one coin flip. Whereas, if the player playing this high rolls and gets 2 or 3 or 4 heads in a row, then the opponent feels really, really bad because now they just face this insurmountable lead that they can't do anything about. And the game also functionally ends at that series of coin flips. So I think that's inherently flawed design when a card is played and it makes someone feel bad every single time that it is played, without fail. It just leads to very volatile feelings when you're playing this game. Now, I think the primary issue with Misty is not so much the coin flips, believe it or not, but it's the fact that this card is not balanced around like 1 or 2 specific Pokemon. And what I mean by that is if we take a look at other supporter cards that are relevant in the metagame right now, cards like Blaine or Lieutenant Surge, or even Brock, which is being played in some rogue decks, those cards are balanced by the fact that they only work with a particular set of Pokemon, which is both flavorful, but also a very strong way of balancing the game. You have to commit to playing those particular Pokemon, and there's an understanding of the limitations of that supporter, right? Like, if I'm playing Blaine, it is understood that the most amount of damage I'm going to do in a turn ever is 120. So, it's much easier to balance around that kind of mentality, whereas Misty, for some reason, only works, it works not only with certain Pokemon, but with every water Pokemon, which is a problem for future game design, right? As we begin to get more promo cards and eventually future sets in the game, the designers have to be explicitly careful about how they design water Pokemon because of the existence of Misty. They can never print, for example, a large basic water attacker that has a good attack for 2 energy, right? Because it is much, much easier to flip 2 coins in a row, that's a 1 in 4 chance, compared to like 3 or more heads, and basically start the game knocking out your opponent's only Pokemon in play and winning on turn 1. Currently, while I don't think this is too much of a problem, it does seem like a developer oversight that you can attack on the first turn of the game going first, and I don't think they accounted for this card in particular, because barring Misty, there is no other way to do that. There's no way to get energy accelerated onto the board on turn 1 and attack in a meaningful way. But Misty allows you to have Articuno or any various large attacker like Lapras EX, now that we have had the promo event, up and attacking on turn 1, and you could possibly KO your opponent's only Pokemon before they've ever had a turn. So to me that is just very poor design and just not a fun way to play the game. So another issue with this card is that there's not a lot of counterplay to Misty. This card is based solely on luck, and the ceiling on this card is so high that one cannot play around it. And what I mean by that is there are other strong supporter cards in the game, like Giovanni or Sabrina, that see a lot of play, but you can understand that your opponent might have those in their hand and might play them on the subsequent turn. So it forces you to think about how you bench Pokemon, or maybe use potions to avoid certain damage breakpoints so that a Giovanni boosted attack does not knock you out on the subsequent turn. These are things that you can think about and play around. The issue with Misty is that, you know, your opponent can be completely dead on board. You can defeat their only Pokemon with energy and really put them in a bad space. And then, out of nowhere, they'll just drop another large attacker, Misty several energy to it, and just get going all over again. And that is not something that you can feasibly play around. And in the event that that Misty powering up a big attacker out of nowhere does not lead to a win for your opponent, that means that you were already in such a tremendous lead that it does not matter what your opponent did, you were going to win that game anyway. And it's not like you played around the Misty, it just didn't matter, likely because of the first several turns of the game leading up until that point. So, this card, just to summarize, unfortunately doesn't have a lot of counterplay options. It is a strong competitive card that deserves to see play, but it's not really skill-based, and it feels really bad for at least one player every single time it is played. Now, before I sign off for today, I don't want to just leave with a negative note, so I want to suggest some ways that this card could be fixed, and because this is a digital-only game, it is very likely that DNA will possibly just, you know, issue erratas for cards or change the way that they work going forward if they feel like there is a balance issue. So, a couple of suggestions that I have. First and foremost, limit Misty to only working with particular water Pokemon like Starmie EX or Golduck. I think that would be very flavorful, it would be very balanced, and even in the case that you super high roll and flip 3 or 4 or 5 heads, it doesn't matter because those Pokemon attack and do a flat rate of damage for 2 energy, so while accelerating to them would still be powerful and you would still play this card in those decks, it would not be inherently game-breaking for any water type going forward. On top of that, I think another way to fix this card is possibly to limit the number of coin flips to 2, which means that you just flip 2 coins and you attach a water for each heads. On average, that means you're getting 1 energy, so that would put it on par with Brock. And then it's a little different in the sense that sometimes, like 1/4 of the time on average, you'll get unlucky and attach no energy, but with the same frequency, you'll also kind of high roll and get to attach 2 energy. I think that is a much more balanced version of this card that feels a lot less bad to play against. So I hope those points make sense. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, if this card is broken or if this card is fine. And yeah, just leave your comments below and I will be sure to read them all. Alrighty guys, thank you for watching and have a good one. Take care.